Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to MALN Opinion Plus, a weekly series airing every Friday. This is a space for opinions where we talk about current events and questions the Latino community is curious about. Today, we are joined by Michael J. Bobbitt, the Executive Director of Mass Cultural Council. Welcome to our show this week, Michael.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I'm really happy to be here.
I'm glad you're here. We can start off today with you briefing us about Mass Cultural Council's history and its mission.
Sure. Mass Cultural Council is an independent state arts agency, and we work to elevate the rich cultural life in Massachusetts. We partner with communities across the Commonwealth to expand access, improve education, and promote diversity and encourage excellence in the arts, humanities, and sciences. And then through our efforts, we make the state just a really great place to live and to work for people that live here and people that visit here. We do this with a number of grants and services to arts, culture, sciences, and humanities organizations.
That's awesome. Why do you think arts and culture is important for a society or a state?
Well, there are many reasons. One, it improves the quality of life for so many. I mean, if you think about what people went through this past year with the pandemic, it is arts and culture that got you through. I think I finished Netflix in August at some point. So, but beyond that, you think about the number of jobs that the arts and culture sector reported last year was 71,000. This is the year before the pandemic. So the income taxes that come from that go into the state budget. So the arts and culture sector put in $2.3 billion into the state budget. That money gets dispersed all around the state for other people to use to help the state be a better place. And then you think about when people consume art, when you go to see a show, you get your hair done, you get your nails done, you might buy a new dress, you might park, you might use rideshare or public transportation. You might go to the restaurant before or have a drink after. So all that secondary spending becomes a big economic driver for the whole state. And the last thing I'll say is that people that are exposed to the arts and culture, their brains are expanded to the creative process. So it makes for a more creative living situation and workforce and schooling. It's a big benefit to everyone.
It's very interesting to hear about, the secondhand spending, like
Yeah.
transportation. A lot of people don't even think about that when it comes to art.
And then, we work with a lot of vendors. So I get all my playbills printed. And when I worked in theater, I bought all this stuff from Home Depot, paint, nails, and wood. So a lot of money gets spent around from arts and culture.
Yeah, you touch upon COVID-19 and the pandemic prior. So I was wondering how the pandemic has affected your organization and regular operations and services since last year.
Well, it's devastated us. We were the first ones closed, and it's looking like we'll be the last ones opened. So much of arts consumption happens in large crowds where people gather to enjoy the arts. And we did 5 surveys in the last year, and we had a survey result. The survey results came in March that reported $588 million in losses from arts and cultural organizations, and $30 million from individuals, reporting 31 million jobs lost. So it's really devastated us, and we're working really hard to get as much money back into the arts and culture sector that we can, so people can start sort of putting a tourniquet on the bleeding that's happening. But we're in crisis. We are looking at a cultural depression, as my friends in California call it.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
Yeah. So can you tell us about the Power of Culture Advocacy campaign and how this can help artists and creatives from what you mentioned?
Yeah, so there's 3 prongs to the Power of Culture Advocacy campaign. There is the budget. So we get an appropriation from the state. Last year and the year before, we got $18.2 million. This is money I get from the state that I grant out to individuals and institutions. So we're advocating for 20 this year. So we could use help with anyone watching this to write to their legislators and say, I support Mass Cultural Council's budget request. The second thing is bonds. The governor has a capital spending budget. And so in the bond bill, we're going for $24 million which includes 10 million for capital projects. So these are bricks and mortar campaigns for cultural institutions that need to upgrade their roof or their stage or their lighting system. There's also money that we're going for to do digital platform work, because if we're going to be closed for a while, we're going to need to ramp up our game with the digital work. And the third is COVID related capital renovation. So some of us have to upgrade our HVAC systems, buy PPE, or put in plexiglass. And so there's money needed for that. So that's in the bond budget. So we need people to advocate with the governor for that. And the last thing is bills. Senator Kennedy has sponsored a bill that reroutes some of Biden's ARPA money to the cultural sector. We're asking for 200 million of the money coming in from that those billions of dollars going out to the states. We want whatever the state gets. We want 200 million of that to go to the arts and culture sector. This again will put a tourniquet on. 200 million only just slightly helps us. We have, like I said, $588 million in losses. That was in March that we did that survey, and it's 2 months later, and only the people that reported. So probably the devastation is close to $1 billion. So that 200 million will go a long way.
That may seem a lot of money for a lot of our viewers and in general as a community, right? So why do you think it's super crucial for everyone, for people to advocate for cultural advocacy?
Yeah, so one, everyone has arts and culture in their life. There's not one day you go that you're not experiencing some sort of arts and culture. So we need to keep this alive. There's also a lot of people that are unemployed. The arts and culture field puts more money into both the U.S. Budget than like transportation and construction and education and agriculture. So we're helping everyone. The arts and culture is a huge economic driver. And if you really love arts and culture, we need to really advocate for it. Also, 200 million may sound like a lot, but when you're looking at, I don't know, $5-8 billion the state will get, it's not that much, because $1 billion is 1,000 millions. And so we're only asking for 200 of the 1,000 millions out of how many billions we're going to get. It's a lot of money. I don't want to be glib about it, but we need to keep our arts and culture together.
Yeah, I understand why, with what is the impact of cultural life specifically in Massachusetts and the Latino communities? What are your inputs on that?
Yeah, I'm getting to know all of our arts and culture organizations. I just moved here in the summer of 2019. And so I'm making my way. And then COVID, of course, took a whole 14 months out of my life. So I'm really getting to know. But I will tell you this, that at the Mass Cultural Council, we're working right now on our racial equity plan. And we're going to be putting a lot of time and resources into recruiting BIPOC organizations and rural organizations that have been underfunded by the philanthropic world. And so I need to get to know all the arts and culture organizations out there, especially the Latinx communities or BIPOC communities that have been underfunded. So, and I also know as a Black person, and my son is Vietnamese, that arts and culture is a huge part of part of the thing that makes people of color. And so I want to make sure we're supporting those organizations with funding to continue their programs and to hire people and to have jobs and to beautify their communities.
I appreciate that. I definitely agree with the culture part. I'm Filipino myself, so
Yeah,
I have tons of tradition and cultural background that a lot of people, I feel like, need to understand more.
sure. Yeah.
So post-pandemic operations and safely reconnection plan with the public audience. What's the plan?
We're working on it. I'm hoping that when the arts and cultural institutions reopen, it's going to feel like a Black Friday sale and people will be banging down the doors to get in. I don't know if that's the case, but I do know all the organizations are out there doing everything they can to make it safe. So people should not fear going back into the institutions and gathering and enjoy. But I'm just starting to have conversations about how do we get more outdoor activities happening? How do we help organizations diversify? How do we look at bumping up our game and innovating more around the digital space? Because some people, we've seen a lot of organizations get a lot of new audiences from the digital world, but we need to do more. It needs to be more innovative and more creative so that people that don't are nervous about going to big venues can stay at home and still enjoy arts and culture.
Yeah, live streaming is huge right now too. So the
It
pandemic
is.
really helped us with that.
Yeah, it is, and when the world gets advances technologically, people don't go back, and so I keep telling my organizations, don't don't think about this being a stopgap. Think about this as being live plus digital, and invest money and
Exactly.
resources. Yeah, yeah,
An addition to
hmm
prior
exactly.
to the pandemic. Yeah. So, what other programs and resources are available for valuable viewers that
We
you'd like
have
to?
we have about 26 different grant programs. These are general operating grants, project grants, individual artist grants, capital improvement grants. So if you have a space and you need to renovate it, we have money for that. We have money that we give out to a bunch of local cultural councils. So in your district, there might be a local cultural council, so you can get money from them. There's quite a bit of money out there. So I encourage everyone to check out our website at massculturalcouncil.org and look over the grant applications or call anyone there. They'll walk you through the different kinds of grants that we have. And there's money we want to give it out to the community. That's kind of what we're legislatively mandated to do.
That's nice. So, take advantage of that, y'all. Definitely. Last question is, how can residents get involved and stay updated with Mass Cultural Council?
There's a bunch of things. Let us know if you know of an individual artist or an arts and culture institution in your community so that we can make sure they're in our portfolio so that when we're letting people know about grants, we are reaching out to them. Two, write to your legislators, write to your people and your reps in the House and your senators and thank them, but also tell them how much you appreciate them and how much arts and culture are important to you. They need to hear from their voters, especially people of color right now. It's so important. So please write to your legislators. You can go to masscreative.org and they make it easy for you. You can put in your address, it'll tell you who all your reps and senators are. You can send them all one note at the same time, but it's so important that they hear from the voters. They're carrying out the wills of the voters. And if they know their voters love arts and culture, they will support our budget asks.
Definitely. Thank you so much. And for talking with us, Executive Director Bobbitt, and for being our guest here at MALN Opinion Plus.
Thank you so much for doing everything you're doing.
Of course. Tune in next week for another episode. Follow us on Twitter at MA Latino News and Instagram at MA_Latino News. I'm Patricia Lim with MALN Opinion Plus. See you next time.